Welcome to the Spiritualpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, aka Love Pixel. And in each episode, we sit down with spiritual entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, wisdom, and tools on their path to authentic success. Let's dive in. What is up, beautiful people? This is Christian here from the Successful Spiritualpreneur Podcast. And today I'm super excited and honored to have Sam Gibbs Morris on the show. He is a leader at the intersection of conscious masculinity, relationships, psychedelics, yogic leaderships, and spirituality. He's a speaker, spiritual teacher, and men's conscious mentor, relationship coach, and psychedelic medicine and breathwork facilitator. And Sam has aligned his purpose with his innate gifts, creating a safe and nurturing space for men to heal and expand their capacity and conscious masculine awareness to experience deeper connections in their relationship. Sam has worked with over 2,000 men to guide them home to their core, reconnect with their inner self-worth and their primal staying power, and become an unwavering presence in their lives. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to be here.
Yes, amazing. Before we dive into your story, I'd love to know, what is the most important, as I guess, quality to guide men back to their core? What would you say is where a lot of men or in today's society get stuck, or if you just change this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. So there's a lot of things that there's one thing that if men do this, everything gets better. So there's a lot of things that circle around this that kind of want to pull us out of it. It's staying power. So how well can we stay in a moment of discomfort? Everything from like a really dark night to the heights of ecstasy. You know, some men want to reject when it gets dark. Some men want to reject when it gets too intimate or too pleasurable or too joyful. So there's all this, these things that are going on that want to take us out of presence. When we can cultivate the staying power to be in a moment and stay there until its completion, everything else in our life opens up.
Wow, beautiful. I love that we, kick it off like that, because I think that quality, if we're able to cultivate that as men and not only give that to ourselves, but obviously after we've given it to ourselves, we can give it to the outside too. So
Yeah.
how did you come to that conclusion? Staying power. Why?
To be honest with you, it was falling on my face quite a bit, like in that area. I for a long time was an avoidant attachment, which meant that when things got good or when things got heavy, I would tend to just avoid. And so for me, that looked like in relationships, it looked like creating problems. It looked like shying away from intimacy. It looked like a lot of things that were the opposite of staying power. I was a runner. And so in my own life, that looked like addiction. It looked like not being able to finish things, like starting a project and not being able to finish it. Going into a job, starting off really fast and hot, and like coming in and then petering out as the 6-month mark hits or the year mark hits. So there's a lot of things in my life that were pointing towards you do not have staying power. I was not experiencing myself as one with staying power. And so I just did a lot of work. I started to do a lot of work on my nervous system, my somatic body, which meant clearing away a lot of trauma, clearing away a lot of wounding, getting in right relationship with a lot of the identity, my own identity. And once I did that, then the staying power became easier, because all those things I just mentioned, addiction, trauma, wounding, stories, identity, they all want to take us out of staying power. And so if you're trying to be in a moment, like with your partner, for example, and you have all these things coming at you from all these other directions, it's the bandwidth is only so fine and so limited that you're easily going to overflow and be maxed out, and therefore lose presence, and the partner will feel you either eject energetically or physically. And so that's what I was experiencing, was a lot of unsafety in my relationships and unsafety in my own self. And when I cultivated that in myself, then I started to really practice into capacity, range, less reactivity, more responsiveness. So reactivity is very like knee-jerk, dangerous. Responsiveness is where there's that pause, that breath, and then engage. And so as I went down the path, clearing away all the things that were getting in the way allowed me to be more of that.
Beautiful. And as part of your work and what you offer as an entrepreneur to men and other couples, like where does it usually start? Like where does the process start? How do you do your framework, methodology,
Mm-hmm.
process, like, and maybe explain the term somatics, because I think not everybody is super familiar with that, like if that is part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where it usually starts is there's something that's off, whether it's in the relationship or whether it's with the man himself. A lot of men that I work with, they've achieved a lot, and the one thing that has kind of paid the price of achievement is relationships, deep connections. And so when it comes to finding deep connection, they tend to flounder and feel lost, and like not so much like a failure, but they're getting feedback from the person they're desiring connection with that it's not working. And so what it really comes down to is that they're applying certain principles that worked in other areas of their life to the relationship, which doesn't work so well. And so it's about like how do you like anchor back into your strengths and your core, your truth, and then use that and apply it to relationship, because um, it's easy to compartmentalize life, and in reality, it's all one thing. Like talk about work-life balance. We talk about bringing your work home, and the real question is not so much as like where's the work-life balance, but how well can I hold all of it? And so this is now getting into the somatics. So um, an example of this is lottery winners. Like there's like a ridiculously staggering stat that most people that win the lottery, say like $500 million, are worse off 2 years later than they were before they won the money. They could be in poverty, win the $500 million, and fall back to like now they're they were in poverty, but now they're drug addicts in poverty, or now they've been to jail. Like because what's happening in that moment is that they're not bad people, but their somatic body was not of the thermostat of the program to hold that level of wealth. And so let's zoom out on that, or dial it back to a relationship, for example. Like we can sit here and talk about, I want this amazing relationship, and I want this, to experience all these things, and the intimacy and the sex and the love and the safety and all this. And what I see is that a lot of men, when that shows up, will begin to sabotage it. They'll begin to um, behave out of character almost. And so what it is their somatic body is doing things that their mind is not aware of. So the body remembers everything that the mind forgets. So we as conscious, so the body is where a lot of the subconscious lives. So subconscious is anywhere from 93 to 98% of our experience is unconscious. So as the 2 to 7% of our conscious is on and going, we want this relationship. There's 93% of usually childhood programming that is saying, no, that's not safe. And so what we do is we sabotage it, we ruin it. So when we can get into the childhood programming, the early childhood development, the parental figures, and then we get into the teenage years where you start to kind of come of age socially. When we can get clear and heal anything that happened in those years, the somatic body then has the space to hold the relationship or the money or the success or whatever it is that we desire. So somatics is the thing that kind of trumps, like everyone talks about mindset coaching. The real work is in the body. How do you clear the body is a living library of all the things that we've ever experienced, oftentimes the things that the mind has forgotten about. And so we don't know when the body, the nervous system, will get triggered into an unsafe moment because of a memory that it's holding on to that we're not conscious of. So when we can create the somatic body, the bigger somatic body, we can then hold a bigger experience of our life.
Beautiful. And how can we clear that? Is there a simple technique that, our listeners?
Everyone wants the magic bullet. There's not one. It's looking is the magic bullet. It is like, where do I, your life will give you feedback. Life is a constant internal, external feedback loop. And so, let's use money, for example. If you're struggling with money, it's worth looking. The first place that you might want to look is at what stories were told around money in your house growing up. So money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are assholes. You got to work hard to make money. These things that are not necessarily accurate programming that you may have been carrying around for years, and it's now influencing your experience of money as a 35 or a 40-year-old. And so the real place to start is current moment. What's my reality? What is my reality pointing to from my past that gets to be cleared so that I can have a more desirable experience of my life in the future? And it doesn't, and it could be shame. Shame is a big one for men. It could be lack mentality. It could be, you can either choose to say you live in a finite universe or an infinite universe. I believe it's an infinite universe. So looking at all these things that are the belief systems, the programs, the wounds, the traumas, it's looking. And then once you get to looking, then you have modalities like inner child work. You have somatics. You have NLP. You have ontological coaching. You have all these different things that you can then apply, plant medicine, that you can apply once you start looking at what the thing is that's creating the problem.
So it's first creating that space of just, the habit of looking, the
Right.
habit of awareness, like creating that. Where do I, what comes up, right?
Yeah.
And I think the step before that, or in order to get to this awareness, I think, in my opinion, is slowing down.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because it's, either you're going to choose to slow down or life is going to give you reasons to slow down, AKA sickness, injury, different reasons. And once we do slow down, we give a lot of stuff time to catch up to us.
Beautiful. And you said in the beginning of our conversation that, you learned a lot of lessons, or you butt your head a lot,
Yeah.
Or you fell on your face is what you said. You fell on your
Yes.
face a lot.
Yeah.
Like, tell us some excerpts, anecdotes of your life that would help us, living more with this, staying power.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one, the first like adult kind of grown up version of this was addiction. I spent 20 years, in and out. I was arrested 25 times. I was in and out of rehab 6 or 7 times. This is, from age 30 to 38. Leading up, most of my 20s was spent heavily drinking, heavily partying, destructive behavior. And it was that, and for a while it felt like having fun. And then it turned into not a lot of fun at all. Broken relationships, inability to hold a job, a lot of self-hate, a lot of self-punishment. There was a suicide attempt in 2009. A lot of this stuff was my lack of capacity, my lack of staying power, because I hadn't addressed things from my childhood that first I used tennis. I became a very, really, really good tennis player. And I used that to kind of cover up a lot of insecurities and a lot of shame from childhood. And then once the tennis career ended, I turned to drugs and alcohol, and used that as the Band-Aid on the bullet hole. That was a lot of shame for me. And so, I didn't have staying power in relationships. I didn't have staying power in my career. I didn't have staying power with myself. I was always doing things to sabotage or, there's a brilliant quote by, I think, Carl Jung, and it said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate." And, I just had this thing that, oh, my fate is that, oh, I'm just not meant to be in love, or I'm not meant to have a successful career, because all these like weird, quote unquote, weird things kept happening to, ruin a relationship. Really what it was that I didn't have the staying power to be with life. I didn't have the ability to be with life as it is. And so coming out of the addiction when I was 38 years old, really the first thing that I had to look at was a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And then as I'm 12 plus years of no drinking now, and it's like, okay, the last big thing that came to me was underneath all of that was a deeply shameful experience of myself. So like if we want to separate like a little bit of a distinction here, is guilt or shame, right? Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And so what I know, all my learnings and experience and education and work that I've done around my own shame is that shame begins when we are 0 to 8 years old, very, very young, early developmental years. We try to get a basic need met, and we experience either rejection or humiliation for that basic need. So for me, that was breathing. I had severe asthma as a kid, and so I would breathing, a basic human need. I would be made fun of or bullied because of my breathing, and I felt very different from my peers. So that landed in my body as shame. Now, speaking back to the somatic thing, is that I didn't recognize this until I felt it, but I didn't recognize the weight or the hooks it had in me until I was in my early 40s. And so I started doing the work on it, and I recognized that I had all this like somatic memory of feeling very different than all my peers because of the asthma. And so then I got to work clearing that. And so that, and then the addiction there, the basically inability to be with life, to be with myself. And then in relationships, what I learned is that I was always looking for someone to save me, because also going back to childhood, being very, very sick, I had severe asthma, severe food allergies, spent a lot of time in the hospital, being saved, quote unquote saved. And so I would look to, for the first 15 or 20 years of my life, it was my parents. And then I started to look to romantic relationships for saving. And, to say I love you, but really meaning underneath that, will you save me? It's a very fragile place to build a relationship off of. And so, I would do that thing where I would find a relationship where I was in love and she was in love, but I would do something to, sabotage it by being avoidant or, breaking up with her just because I felt some kind of way. And then I would, come crawling back. And so it was this pattern that developed in relationships that, I couldn't be with that level of intimacy. I couldn't be with that level of closeness because I didn't have the staying power. I didn't have the nervous system capacity to hold that.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And for other men who experience something similar, what were modalities that helped you, other than obviously becoming aware and looking? Like, what are other modalities that maybe used to slow down and then?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I first, the beginning of it looked like a lot of, reading books and that type of thing. Then it kind of went into talk therapy. I spent a lot of 7 years, 6 years, no, probably more than that, probably 9 years in Alcoholics Anonymous and doing that work, the 12-step work. That was huge. Once I left Alcoholics Anonymous, then I got more onto a deeper spiritual path that involved a lot more meditation, a lot of journaling, breath work, plant medicine, ayahuasca, bufo, mushrooms, like a lot of these like plant allies that we have. My path on the macro looked like doing a lot of work in a very conscious human place. Like I was just in talk therapy with myself and, in the rooms of AA and doing a lot of stuff like without anything else, probably 12 years of like really, really, really intense, very sober work. And then that didn't stop working, but I felt like I hit a ceiling with that. And then I made a decision in 2019 to move on to more of the plant medicine path, because I knew that I had accessed everything that I knew about, everything that I was consciously in my human awareness. I turned over every stone I could, and I was starting to turn over old stones, looking for new answers. And so what I knew is that I needed some sort of catalyst to access some new information. So that's when I got into the psychedelic work, and that really, really opened up a lot. That's when the deep shame healing started to happen. So that was kind of the trajectory of it.
Wow. And do you also facilitate psychedelic work with your clients in any capacity?
Yeah. I would say that probably 95% of my clients, we do work with psychedelics, and kind of mimicking my path is that we do a lot of work without psychedelics, without the medicine,
Yeah.
in order to set ourselves up for success when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to using the medicine. If what's that?
How would a session with a client, for example, look like in like using psychedelics with
Yeah.
healing certain?
So I use a medicine called Bufo, which is 5-MeO-DMT. It's the most intense psychedelic that we have access to on the planet. It comes from the Bufo alvarius, which is the Colorado River toad, or the Sonoran Desert toad. It's a toad that lives in the Sonoran Desert of Mexico, Southwest United States. It actually lives underground for 9 months out of the year, and then it comes out in the rainy season. And then the Comcac Indians who live in that area have developed a way to harvest the venom from the toad, and this produces this molecule called 5-MeO-DMT, which is people call it the God molecule. And it's most psychedelics are anywhere from like 4 to 24 hours if you're talking about iboga, 4 to 10 hours if you're talking about ayahuasca, and this medicine is 20 minutes. And so what it looks like is that I'll have my client come in, we'll do breath work, we'll kind of do some a meditation, we'll do breath work to get them into their body, to get them calmed, and then we'll do several rounds of the 5-MeO-DMT, the Bufo, and that medicine. It's not like for those that are familiar, it's not like mushrooms where there's kind of you're interacting with the medicine in a way that's like a conversation. This is one where the medicine takes you offline, and you get a massive clearing of your systems. It's a somatic therapy at its root. A lot of people will come in and move their body around a lot. They'll roll around. They'll flail their arms. They'll make some noises. It's releasing all this stored energy that's been around for decades. And so that the ceremonies usually last about 3 to 5 hours. And then at the end of the ceremony, we sit down, we talk about what happened and process. And then I work with my clients for 3 months at a time. So usually this is kind of like towards the middle, towards the end, not the end. So usually if it's 3 months, usually about the end of the second month, we'll do a psychedelic ceremony. And that way we have a month on the back end to integrate. So integration is the biggest part of this whole process. People come and do these medicines, and then it takes 30 to 90 days for everything from the ceremony to land. And so usually, like I work in 3-month increments, but usually it's about a 6-month process with my clients.
Beautiful. And what were some of the transformations, if you can share any, that you were just like, wow, I can't believe that, or like
I mean it's so a lot. There's a lot, not a lot, but when I tell you what it is, it happens very frequently. All things being relative, that people will come to us. My wife and I serve the medicine together. People will come to us, couples or the women or the men, and they've been trying to get pregnant for years sometimes, and several times they've sat in ceremony, done the integration work, and then gotten pregnant within weeks or months after the ceremony. That's a big like aha wow. Other ones are that, people have a different interaction with life. They feel lighter. They feel more tolerable. They feel that they have a bigger capacity, like less things throw them off than before. A lot of people will, it's a breakthrough moment where they felt like they've been up against a glass ceiling, whether it's financially or in a relationship or with their business. And they'll sit with us in ceremony. And then the thing that they've been trying for a year and a half to access is all of a sudden there for them. And whether that's a new level of income, whether that's more clients, whether that's some new innovation in their business, it really opens up a lot for people because it creates space in your body.
How would someone know? I mean, of course, we always trust in the individual guidance and internal like intuition, but how would someone know someone would be ready for for work like this, because
it's a great question. When you feel like you've turned over every stone you can, and you've done a lot of work either with a coach or with a men's group or maybe couples therapy, or just when you feel like you kind of like, wow, I'm, like cycles are repeating, patterns are repeating. You feel like you've put in the time and you've read all the books and you've done all the things and talked it all out, and there just seems to be something that the human approach is not really working anymore. It's worth investigating if or which of these plants would be best suited for you. And I can't emphasize this enough. Give your very conscious, sober human a chance to work through all that it needs to before you start using the plants. If you start using the plant medicine before you're complete as a human, you're gonna potentially end up with some chaos and some destruction.
You're gonna open up more than you might be able to handle, right?
Right? Yeah.
Ultimately, I feel at the end of the day, like, Joe, to not get any scared, like if people go through things like that, is also, I think, because they kind of like ask for it.
Yeah.
Like if somebody does a plant medicine ceremony prematurely, you kind of asked for it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so the things you have to deal with it after. If you don't have that like capacity or staying power, as you say,
Yeah.
like you'll be invited to cultivate that.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be thrust upon you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so true.
And so, if people are interested to, know more about your work and your wife's work, like where would they find you guys? Do you guys have a website, a portal where they can reach you?
The best place is go through Instagram. Everything is kind of linked to the Instagram profile. My Instagram is at Sam Gibbs Morris, and my wife is at Michelle Hiratos, Hiratos.
Got it. Beautiful. And where are you located? If people are looking to also physically maybe be
Yeah.
part of your retreats or ceremonies, or
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for asking. We are located in Austin, Texas, and we do travel. Like we've gone to LA, we've gone to different parts of New York. We've gone to different parts of the country that when we have clients that are there.
do you also offer private ceremonies? Like
they're all private. Yeah. It's all one. We offer private, so it's either like me and my wife and a one-on-one client, or me and my wife and a couple. We do a lot of couples ceremonies. It's a beautiful medicine to work with someone that you're like a partner, a romantic partner, because one is it's gonna be a shared experience, which is beautiful. But secondly, on the backside, you have someone. It creates a whole new language in your vortex. Like you have access to new things that if I'm talking to someone that hasn't done Bufo yet, and I'm trying to explain to them what Bufo is, it's not a lot of words can accurately do it. And so if you're doing it with your romantic partner or your life partner, to have someone on the other side that you can communicate the experience with is super valuable, to help with the integration.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, it kind of like reminds me of the Tao. The Tao,
Yeah,
Tao Te Ching. It's like what they
yeah,
say, first
yeah,
line of the Tao is like Tao ke Tao, Te Chang Tao, which
yeah,
means which means that the Tao that can be put into words, that can be expressed, that can be defined, is not the Tao. It's kind of
yeah,
like with plant medicine. It's like whatever
yes,
you're gonna say about it, it's
yeah,
more than that. You know what I mean?
yes, is 100% accurate. Yes.
I love it. Okay. So, and how many years back did you decide to like, this is gonna be my path? Like, I'm gonna make
Yeah.
do it in a professional container. How did you declare this your passion?
Yeah. It started in 2013, right after I had stopped drinking. I stopped drinking in 2012, and then 2013 I moved to San Francisco. And my first kind of step onto like a coaching or a service-based path was personal training and nutrition coaching. And so I did that from 13 to 2017. I had my own personal training business in San Francisco. And then I moved out of the personal training and into the men's work in 2017. And then from there, um, it's been an evolution, but it's always been kind of like I work with men, and a lot of times, it started off with like a lot of men would come to me, um, in addiction, in recovering from addictions, and then a lot of men would come. Then from there, it would be a lot of mental health, because underneath the addiction is a lot of pain. Gabor Mate has a great quote. It says, "Don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain." And so once I recognize that in myself, I started helping a lot of guys with, what's beneath the addiction. Okay, so there's addiction there, but why? And so then from there, what I recognized was that a big pain point for a lot of men is their romantic relationships. They can figure out work, and they can figure out the gym, and they can figure out money, but they have a hard time figuring out the feminine energy, the women that are in front of them. Like, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, so what I recognized was that that's really where I get to help men, is like how, because when men can properly relate to and hold the feminine, the romantic partner in front of them, they can usually, and I say usually, I mean all the time, uh, directly correlates to how they hold the rest of their life. And so once I recognized that, that was probably 2020-ish, 2019, 2020. That became my focus. So I've been doing this now for 5 years, helping men in this respect.
Wow. And can you tell us of some milestones in terms of like entrepreneurship? Like now that we know what you do and like what it is that you like, the transformation that you facilitate with people, like what, like how did you see your business grow, or is there any, like how did that develop for you in your case?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many lenses we can put on that. There's the financial one of 6-figure years, and um, there's the expansion around of like the word of mouth stuff. How like more people just like the growth of the business as far as like a volume of business done, just exponentially grows every year. Um, there's being invited on podcasts like this. Like there's so many markers of what I'm really about is how can I how can I influence or impact as many men, women, couples as possible. And so really what I base there's all the metrics. There's the number of clients worked with. There's the number of retreats done. There's the amount of money made. Like those are all great. They're direct representations of the impact that I'm having. And so as those, like, it's not linear, but it's always upward. And so just looking at the kind of the holistic approach to that has been the most, I'd say, profound realization that I've had as an entrepreneur, is that the more that I can focus on the people, the relationships, the impact of it, the rest of the stuff magically falls into place.
Hmm. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
It's so
It's a
interesting
relief. It's a relief, to be honest with you.
when we take care of the people that we serve. It really just amplifies our
Yeah,
mission, everything that we do.
totally, 100%.
Beautiful. So we're coming up towards the end of the episode. Um, is there anything you would like to share with the audience before we let them go? And then the last part of the episode, I always like to give over to you, to the interviewee, that really to like just call in your vision, like what are future goals that you have as a spiritual entrepreneur, as a brand, like what are you looking to call in,
Yeah.
and um and then kind of like the outro where people can find you. But yeah, let's start with like what's like one thing you want to leave people with?
I would say the one thing to leave people with is the the key is in the body. The keys to like the success, the relationship, the life that you desire to live it's in your body. The answers lie in your body, and so the more that we can get out as human beings, the safest place for us is in thoughts, in analytics, in logic, because it's so safe for us to think. It's why worry and hope are the same thing. They both make us feel like we're doing something about a thing, but we're not really doing anything about it. So hope is like, I'm hoping, but like, where's the feet movement on that? Worrying is the same way. They're like rocking chairs. You know, you're moving, but you're not moving forward. And so that's where it feels safe for us as humans to exist. When we can drop out of our heads and turn off the head and allow the body and the heart magnetism, the heart coherence to lead us, that's when true transformation happens in life, is when we can get out of our head and into the embodiment of the work. So I think like the thing I would leave is that just notice how embodied you are, or how much in your head are you, you know? And so just know that the more you can get into your body and the more you can trust the wisdom of your body, we are electrical fields. That's what we, as humans, that's what we are. And so that comes from our heart. That's the 9 feet all around us is an electrical field that comes from our heart. And so the more we can allow that to lead, the better off we're going to be.
Oh, beautiful. That's really cool to leave our listeners with that. And
Yeah.
then as last part, like what are you looking to call into your life?
Yeah. So this year is big on, the one-on-one coaching stuff. But it's really, this year is about getting into retreats and group coaching programs. So I have a group launching April 1st called Buffalo Mountain. It's a 12-week men's container. It's going to have 24 guys in it, 24 to 30 guys. And we're going to go on a 12-week journey into the inner wilderness that lives inside us. And we're going to, look for the edges and uproot the edges and turn over all the stones. And then that's coming up. So there's going to be more of that. And retreats, in-person stuff, like, going to Costa Rica or going to Sedona or maybe somewhere in Europe to host some either men's or couples. My wife and I have some couples retreats too.
Beautiful. I love it. And last but not least, you mentioned it already, like Instagram, but is there anywhere else where people can find you?
Yeah, all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. The website is samgibbsmorris.com. That's the website. But again, you go to the Instagram and the link to that will be there. So the Instagram is at Sam Gibbs Morris, GIBBS.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for blessing us with all your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, your heart, your soul. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you, Christian, for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.